What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Rick Owens rotation, where every episode it's what the title says, we're adding some new Rick Owens pieces to our rotation. And today, in this episode, we have got two new Rick Owens t-shirts to look at, one new and one old. We have got the new one right here from Dark Shadow. This piece is a really cool cut and sew piece. And then our old one is a 3/4 sleeve, kind of just classic Rick Owens, like sheer black long sleeve here. So we're gonna check both of these out. We're gonna look close up at the details, and then we'll throw some fits together. We'll try them on, see how they feel, how they fit. And then I need you guys in the comments to tell me which one you think is better. So let's get into it. Hey, don't forget, me and Christian from Brave New Wear have a new podcast called The Biased Cut. Head over there, subscribe, and make sure you join us every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, because we will be recording the podcast live. See you then. All right, here are our two t-shirts we're looking at. I say let's start with the newer one right here. So here it is, and I think you're probably already seeing why I like this so much. And as I mentioned in the intro, this is a much newer piece than the other one we're looking at. I believe this is a 2021 piece from Dark Shadow. So let's start off by looking at the tags inside this shirt. So if you're a fan of Rick Owens, or even better, if you've been watching this series, you probably know that there's not going to be much to see here. You have the kind of like road strips going down right here, classic Rick Owens stuff. But since this is a Dark Shadow piece, we don't have any branding or collection names on these tags. But, you know, they're just on there like beige, very nicely stitched down. You can see them through the back as always, kind of a if you know, you know kind of thing. But that's all you get with the neck tag. The good stuff on this one is on the care tags. So as always, this is stitched in on an extra piece of fabric coming off this side seam here. And you've got Dark Shadow right at the top, model number, always good. And then we get into sizing, and this is where it starts getting interesting, because you can see this is a unisize piece. They only made one size, and it is very large, I will tell you that. So you're not getting a small, you're not getting a large, you get what you get. Our color is black natural, kind of like a off-white cream kind of color. And then we get our composition, which is, of course, 100% cotton. Rick Owens always has the best feeling fabrics. That's one of my favorite parts about Rick Owens. And of course, as with all things Rick, made in Italy. If we look at the outside of this piece, we can see that right here, you can see some stitching lines going on here, and you may know what that is, because if we look inside here, we have got the Rick tag. It's kind of like in a negative X-ray kind of vibe on this woven tag that, as you can see, is super cleanly stitched down on all four sides there, tied off on the bottom right. And finally, you'll also note that we have our tag hanging down here is pretty much all Dark Shadow tops have. So in here, it is DRK, and then you've got your kind of like pentagram there, and that hangs down much further down than the shirt itself. And that tag starts at that side seam quite a ways further up from the care tags. So now we got to get into the shirt itself, and I'm sure the first thing you're noticing is that giant Rick Owens like upside down pentagram on the chest. And I don't blame you, because that's also the part that stood out the most to me, and probably the big reason why I picked this up, although I do like a good long sleeve striped shirt as well. So this is like a cut and sew element where you've got all these layers coming on top of each other. It's just like a weird engineering problem in and of itself. Double stitched down with just some raw fabric left over on the ends, but really clean stitching. And then the way they overlap turns into that logo right there at the chest, which is just so sick. So you can see almost like a V-neck. This layer comes down and turns into the point right here, but then it actually opens back up as you get to the bottom. So it's this really cool geometric effect all over the shirt, and that's what makes me love this piece so much. Another really interesting part is the fit. We already saw that it's one size, but it's much more than that. It's almost like a tunic kind of fit. You see the shoulders. Normally in most things, you know, the shoulders are a bit more like this. This one, they come straight down, and the sleeves start very late, and they're very short. So there's our shoulder. It comes down. Here's where the sleeve starts, and it ends right there. So let me zoom out here a bit. That is the entire length of the sleeve right there, so it gives it a really, really wild look when you're wearing it. You've got a really nice rib neckline here. And actually the cuffs, they're like a different fabrication. It's not as ribbed, it's just more of a standard knit, but it's got a lot of stretch to it. And while the front is absolutely crazy, the back is kept much more standard. You get those kind of landing strips right here coming through the back of the neck with that stitching, and then you've got just straight horizontal stripes here, keeping it nice and clean. And now that means we got to move on to talking about our older shirt right here. So there it is right there, and you can see it's very different from the last one we looked at. But let's start off by looking at the tags here. So unlike the last piece, this one is Rick Owens Mainline. So we've got the logo on the left one here, and on the right one we've got the collection. In this case, Moody Fall Winter 14. So that makes this a solid 7 years older than the last piece we looked at. We don't have any care tags for this one, but I can all but guarantee you that this is silk or some sort of silk blend. I can just tell by feeling it. You could also see right there, this has another classic Rick element, which is that it is semi-sheer. You can see the kind of pink of my finger coming through there when I touch it. And going along with that, it's also very, very thin. And you can see a lot of interesting things about the cut as well. You can see that it is a very wide neckline. It takes up almost the entire shoulder area. And then the sleeves are a very peculiar length as well. I don't know, I called it like a 3/4 sleeve before, but I don't think that's even fair. It's more of like a half sleeve, I would say. Another thing about the fit is that this shirt is very long, almost like dress levels, which is something that Rick Owens loves doing. And kind of in contrast to the last shirt we looked at, the front of this one is actually like pretty standard, I would say. Whereas the back here has an asymmetrical stitch that comes down from the back of the neck and then curves off to the left here. You'll also note that all of our hems are left raw, so they just curl up on their own, which I actually think is an awesome look, and I really like a lot of my pieces that do this. I don't know what it is about it, it just makes it feel more kind of undone and handmade in a way. And the last thing you'll note is that it does widen a bit as it gets to the bottom, which makes me wonder, like, we don't have care tags, so we can't really tell 100%, but I'm not really sure if this was originally a menswear piece or a womenswear piece. But honestly, like, I don't care about that stuff as long as it looks cool, but just thought it was something worth noting. So now that we've checked out the details of both of these pieces, it's time to throw some fits together. All right, so we've got both of our shirts here, and the cool thing about this is that since they're both just tops, we can put together a single fit and just switch them out and decide which piece works better. So I'll decide that for myself. You guys let me know in the comments which one you end up thinking is better, but let's talk about our fit. So we've got our two tops right here that we'll swap, okay? Then we need some pants. I think black is really the way to go here. So we've got some cropped Balenciaga jeans here. We need a piece of outerwear, I would say. So for that, we're gonna go again black. This black kind of sateen leather, strong shoulder jacket from Celine. And then finally, we need some shoes. And of course, it's Rick Owens, so why the hell not finish this out with our pair of classic Geo baskets here in black and milk. I'm looking forward to this. Let's see what happens. All right, so starting off here with the older black half sleeve one, this is really, really interesting. I do think this look works. I like how long it is coming out the bottom of this quite cropped jacket from Celine. But the low neckline, or I guess the really wide neckline you would call it, gives it a little bit of intrigue from under the jacket. But then once you take this off to get a better look at the piece itself that we're showing off here, you can see it's a really, really interesting piece. You can probably see how comfortable it is. It's a bit tighter in the shoulders and arms, as a lot of Rick Owens stuff is, but the kind of like silk composition really, really helps to make up for that. And I like this piece. I think as I'm wearing it, I'm getting more convinced that this was originally released as a women's wear piece. It has a very feminine vibe to it, but a lot of Rick Owens stuff has a feminine vibe, both men and women, and that's part of what I like about it, so I don't mind that at all. Other than the length, which is kind of oversized, I would say, or overlong, it is generally quite slim, which is normal for the brand. And now moving on to the striped pentagram shirt, this is where it gets really interesting. The look doesn't hold up quite as well here just because this top is so oversized. Being underneath this very slim Celine jacket just feels a little bit off to me. But you know what, I'm just gonna let that go. I'm gonna let that slide, and we're gonna work with what we got, because once you take the jacket off, now it totally works because you're getting the cream in the top matching with the cream in the geo baskets, and now we're really cooking with fire here. I think it works super well. Now, talking about the fit of this piece, it's one size, so there's not too much to say about the sizing other than the fact that it is very large. You'll also see that the sleeves, it's crazy. Like the start of the sleeve kind of underneath hits like right around where my elbow is. It's the weirdest cut for a shirt that I have ever seen, but it also gives it a really interesting look. And the feel I'm really happy with. It's like a midweight cotton. As with most Rick Owens stuff, it's incredibly soft. Like, I don't know where he finds these cottons, but I am jealous as hell. It's just sick. But before we go here, I did want to say I kind of knew going into this that I wasn't giving this striped top as fair of a shot with the fit I put together. So I just grabbed another jacket, a Balenciaga leather jacket, and that being much larger than the Celine one works much better, and I think now we've got a really workable look here. So now that we've got both of them right up against each other, which one do I prefer? I think the black one, the solid black one, is a bit more all-purpose. I could see wearing that in more occasions, but the striped one has more pop and just feels more interesting to wear, I would say. So they each have positives and negatives, but make sure you let me know which one you think is going to be the better one for the rotation. Alright, so those are the two new Rick Owens shirts that we are adding to the rotation. Take a look at the other video on screen here, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I'll see you next time.